Oksana screamed and sat up in bed. That dream again. Nothing special, just the eyes of her husband and his mistress that she sees through the bars. But this dream gradually turned into a real nightmare. A fixation. Zhu? What? Again? Her cellmate handed her a glass of water. Thanks. Oh God. Maybe from tomorrow all of this will stop. The neighbor snorted. No, I don't think so. I suppose it will only stop when you take full revenge on your hubby and this herring. Oksana smiled. You're bloodthirsty, Zoika. Not bloodthirsty, but fair. Think why I offed my man. Because the world got cleaner after that. No man who harmed a child had a right to live. And which one? His own daughter. Oksana knew this blood-curdling story. Zoika once got pregnant in her youth. Things didn't work out with her fiancé. They split up, and when the daughter was 13, they met again. Both lonely, and it all began. We had a child together. That's why we didn't think twice. Got married. For a year, Zoika was on cloud 9, enjoying family life, and only after a year did she notice that her daughter had changed somehow. Darn. Scared? She slipped to a C at school. She tried not to talk. Although Zoe was a bit overwhelmed with happiness at the moment, she still loved her daughter. She sat down in front of herself when her husband wasn't home and began to ask cautiously. The daughter couldn't bear it. She told everything, how her father has been harassing her from the first days, and what he says will happen to her if she tells her mother everything. Zoya didn't think for a second. She called her older sister, told her to swear. If something happens to her, don't abandon her daughter. And then she waited for her husband from work, gave him a piece of her mind. He tried to run, but you can't escape from Zoika. In the clink for the full stint, like for a premeditated murder. Oksana knew that her adult daughter was writing to her. Zoe reads and cries. I will miss you, Oksan. But you don't miss me. You have very little left. When you get out, we will definitely meet. You know, I felt something. I withdrew most of the money. Hid it. I can imagine how my husband and his queen were furious. Akson wanted to ask everything. Why don't you have children? Volotka didn't want to. He said later. A bit later. Just he didn't have enough money. I regret it now, of course. But now it's like that. 41. What kids are there? As for getting revenge, I'll still think about your words. Think hard. Because I don't want to come back here. You're right here. And I don't want to either. Even though my daughter says everything will be fine, that I'll live with them. You understand? I'm practically a stranger to her. And I have so much behind me. Her husband may squint. I want to myself, but how now, I don't know. Don't worry, Zoe. We'll definitely come up with something. Oksana took a deep breath. Seems like she's only 5 meters away from the hated gates. Yet the air is completely different. She slung her bag over her shoulder and quickly headed towards the bus stop. Need to get to the city as soon as possible. In one of the banks, where they didn't even want to let her in, she took a little money out of the deposit box. Well, not just a little. A little compared to what's left there. She went out into the street, looked around. She needs some kind of salon where they can help her change. Excuse me, you dropped it. She jumped. A tramp was standing next to her. He handed her a release certificate. Oh, aye, thanks. The guy, apparently not old, nodded and walked away. Hold on. Oksana caught up with him and handed him several large bills. You'll need it. He looked at the money in amazement, then looked up. But Oksana was already in a hurry to leave. In the salon, they looked at her like she was sick with the most contagious disease in the world. The woman smiled. Nothing changed. You must have made a mistake. Our prices are very high. No, I didn't make a mistake. She took out a stack of money. I need to become normal. Also, someone needs to go and buy me different clothes. And of course, all this without any unnecessary questions. Seeing the money. The master immediately changed his disdainful expression to a friendly smile. Of course, we'll help with everything. 3 hours later, Oksana went out to the street. A guy passing by the salon at that time even whistled. Wow, look at her. Oksana smiled contentedly. Now she needs a phone and some place to live. She was about to go when she saw that tramp again. He sat right on the curb. Next to him was a bag of food, apparently bought with her money, and around it, a swarm of homeless cats and dogs. He fed them, petted them. Oksana headed towards him. Didn't you drink away the money? The man stood up, dusted his hands off, shrugged his shoulders. No, I don't drink. So what are you doing on the street then? Well, it happened. I too ended up with such a report once. While I was gone, I became unwanted here. Oksana gasped. Wow, she said then. So, you'll tell me everything later. Go buy some decent clothes, and I'll find a place to live. I think you can help me. Don't worry, nothing too criminal. The man grinned. What kind? She shrugged. I don't know yet myself, because I haven't figured out what I'll be doing. We'll meet here in 3 hours. The man looked at her carefully. Honestly, even if it's criminal, I'll still help you. I'm tired of it here. He turned around and left. In 3 hours, Oksana not only rented an apartment, but she also bought a used car, which, by the way, was still pretty good, but it didn't attract attention. When I arrived at that place, I didn't recognize the tramp right away. The guy, of course, was not shaved, not cut, but in a decent tracksuit and sneakers. Sit down. He plopped down on the seat. Wow, you've changed so much since morning. Oksana laughed. I'm not changing, just trying to get back to human form. We still need to buy at least some food in the store. Late in the evening, Oksana, after preparing dinner, came out of the kitchen to see where Maxim had disappeared. That's what her new acquaintance was called. Having searched everywhere and not finding him, she knocked on the bathroom door. Hey, are you in there? Dinner is ready. The door opened. There was a man on the doorstep, about 40, maybe 43, without a beard and with neatly combed back hair. Oksana swallowed. Wow, you don't look like a bum at all. Maxim smiled. It turns out all his teeth were in place too. Hot water and humane conditions do their job. Well, it's time to talk. She went to the kitchen. Maxim's appearance constantly distracted her. Listen, I can't go on like this. Let's start with you. Then we'll decide what to do with my offenders. Maxim sat quietly for a while, then started talking. You know, once I had everything. Business, money, wife, and then I woke up and found out that I killed a man. I know for sure that I couldn't, and that's it. But my wife testified against me. My assistant too. They put me in jail. They got married and successfully made me homeless. Probably I could have dug all this up later. But when I left, I had no money. All the friends, if they can be called that way, turned their backs on me. I didn't want to bow to anyone. I tried to get a job, but as it turned out, they couldn't offer me anything other than a janitor's position. I don't know. Either it's pride or stupidity. But I chose the street. Oksana was silent for some time. Then she looked at him. Let me get this straight. You're not clueless about financial matters. Maxim smiled. Aim higher. I also studied to be a jeweler. They sat until morning. They had more than 1 cup of coffee, and by morning they had a rough plan. Moreover, It was a good revenge. No one would have been physically hurt, but morally and materially, well. A month has passed. Maxim, I think we've reached our goal. Oksana was sitting at the laptop, looking through some documents. Maxim sat down next to her. There's not much. It reminded him. A bum, a trendy short haircut, well-groomed hands, and he even carries himself differently now. Straight back and broad shoulders. He quickly glanced because it was shown by Oksana and smiled. We're great. See? No, we're geniuses. But you're the biggest genius. Oksana leaned back in her chair. Now, just wait, Maxim. Let's get some good wine and celebrate our hard work. Let's do it. Oksana was embarrassed. He looked at her differently somehow. They settled in the room. The mood was wonderful. Joked, laughed. The reason why they decided not to return together that night is still unclear. Max, say it. So you will get yours. But what will you do next? Honestly, I don't know. On the one hand, I want to sell everything and run to the other side of the world, to start all over again there. I don't think I'll be able to forget how all my so-called friends turned me down. Hello. I don't want to give them such a pleasure. I might try to eat them as a company. And you? Yeah, you were just talking, and I realized you're voicing my thoughts. You're just saying everything I'm thinking, you see? So it turns out it happens. Not always. Oksana looked at Max. His voice suddenly became hoarse, and his gaze. Somehow it just happened that she was next to, and then forgot about everything. The phone kept ringing and ringing. Maxim grumbled. Throw it out. Oksana laughed. Max, you've forgotten why we met. Hello. Probably the biggest pleasure was watching how the mistress is now the wife. Lashes the acquired husband of Oksana on the cheeks and screams, You're a freak. You're nothing. You're an empty space. Oksana was smiling when she encountered the full of hate gaze of her ex. Approximately the same thing was happening with Maxim's ex-wife. She was irritated, constantly poking her companion with her finger and shouting, Why are you silent? Why are you silent like an idiot? Well, do something. But the most interesting was yet to come. At the exit, both pairs were awaited by police officers who were eager to ask some questions about past criminal activities. So, about the ones that Maxim and Oksana supposedly did. For another 2 months, they were side by side involved in legal proceedings. At last, everything was finished. Oksana horrifyingly realized that nothing was connecting them anymore. They'll split up. Get lost in the big city, likely never to meet again. Oksana, I suggest we sit in the restaurant. After all, we've done what? For what? She interrupted him. No, let's stay at home. Just you and me. It's our last evening. Understand? Yes, I understand. Good. That evening, they didn't have as much fun as they used to. It was sad, pitiful, painful, something like that. Sat quietly, not looking at each other. Maxim spoke first. Shall we have some wine then? Oksana nodded. She gulped from the goblet, bulged her eyes, and dashed to the bathroom. Maxim was standing behind the door and shouting, Open up! Can you hear? Open it or I'll take the door down. I can hear you're unwell. Let me call an ambulance. Oksana opened the door. No need for a doctor, seemingly ate something. Maxim woke up at night because Oksana was not next to him. He was asleep. He thought she was feeling bad again. Just that she didn't wake him up. A sliver of light was coming from the bathroom. Oksan, are you here? He pulled the door. It was unlocked. Oksana was in the bathroom. She was sitting on the floor crying. Maxim was frightened, and he knelt down next to her. What? What happened? Did you fall? Are you feeling bad? Did you break something? Oksana shook her head in denial and handed him something. Maxim took this in his hands. I fiddled around for a while, then finally figured out what it was. Carefully I turned it over and saw 2 bright stripes. This, Oksana whispered. It's a surprise for us. Maxim carefully set her on her feet. Why are you crying? It's a real gift. Heh! I'm almost 42. And so? You are the youngest and most beautiful I have. Of course it's my fault. Until yesterday, I didn't know how to find a reason to stay near you. You pulled me out. I didn't think I had the right to tire you further with my presence. But now I'm not going anywhere, even if you try to send me away. Oksana wiped her eyes, looked at him carefully. Really? Of course. Max, you know what I was dreaming about yesterday? Breaking something so you wouldn't leave just like that. My fool. I've long realized that I can't live without you. Just didn't think you needed a bum. Thanks for watching till the end. If you liked the story, I hope for your support with a thumbs up. All the best.